All right. Music is going. We are going to get back to our review of the Kobold Guide to Roleplaying. Now, as it does say up yonder, I am not sponsored. I did receive this copy as a review copy for free from Kobold Press. Though I was not given any kind of instruction nor a request that I must give it a glowing review, that I must discuss one thing or another regarding it. It is up to me to read and form my own opinion and present it. And in fact, Kobold Press was very kind enough. Senpai noticed me and liked the tweet I put out that referenced our workshop last night. So there you go, everyone. So not even just Kobold Senpai noticed me, but noticed us as a community. Now, as we go through this, if you have any wisdom or insight, if you agree with something, or even if you disagree, you're welcome to put it up in chat. So far, I've enjoyed the stories. We have made sure to remove art from artist. And we're looking at the references that are in the book as something that is, I was going to say suggestive. It's not suggestive in that way. Referential, or can spawn some good ideas to look into further. The way this is broken down is very nice, with maybe 4-ish page little essays about different topics. All right, Persilas. Well, thank you for lurking. Let's pick up again with Beyond the Talky-Talky Bits. Role-playing outside of social interactions. And this essay is written by Luke Hart, someone that I don't know. I don't think his name is familiar, at least to me. So if any of you out there know Luke Hart, if he has a body of work somewhere, please shout it out, even if it's probably mega embarrassing. You're like, Matt, how do you not know Luke Hart? He's the guy who does the thing. You talk about the thing all the time. You don't even know the guy who does the thing? Apparently not. And so that's my fault. When we hear the commonly uttered phrase, quote, "I really like the role-playing aspect of the game," end quote, almost all of us know exactly what the person means by role-playing. The parts of the game where their character is talking in character with other characters or NPCs, often using special voices or accents, though not necessarily. I personally refer to this as the talky-talky bits of the game, and you'll see why in a moment. But there's a problem here. Almost everyone uses the word role-playing incorrect. There we go. The bait has been cast, and now we're hooked. Luke, what do you mean? How dare you, Luke? This is clearly clickbait, rage bait, fan bait. You are literally attacking me, Luke Hart. Look, everyone, if we can't laugh about this stuff, then you actually will cry about it, because it's that type of insipid online attitude that has led to a lot of ruination last year, even going into this year. So kudos for the bait and the bite, the successful one. Just as a good storyteller should be able to do, by the way. So how have we been using the word role-playing incorrectly, or rather, why? Why? Because the entire game is role-playing. What most people refer to as role-playing, the talky-talky bits, is only one aspect of role-playing. The fact is, there is so much more to role playing in RPGs than just talking in character. Defining role playing. At its heart, role playing is putting yourself in the shoes of another person and saying and doing the things that person would do. In RPGs, if you're the player, we call these other persons PCs. And if you're the GM, NPCs. And for the record, even monsters that solely exist for the sake of slaughtering are NPCs too. Yeah, it's interesting because he approaches the description of it. By the way, this is a very pedantic thing to point out, but if this is aimed at newer, maybe newer role players, people newer to TTRPGs, giving, like, typing it out at least one time first, player character, non-player character, can help, because there could be someone reading the book that doesn't quite get that, at least not up front. So anyway, if you're a player role-playing your player character, your PC, your task is to say and do what your character would say and do. Many times, what your character would say and do in a given situation is very much different than what you would say and do. This is why it's called role-play. Role-play. And yes, it's very much like acting, only without the paycheck. Thus, if you are a dwarven fighter named Krug the Cruel, negotiating with a shopkeeper, your task is to ask yourself what Krug would say and do, and then have Krug say and do it. Would Krug politely ask the shopkeeper for a discount? No, of course not. You might, but you're role-playing Krug, not yourself. No, Krug would lean over the counter, clench his fist, flex his massive arm, and demand, in a Scottish accent, of course, that the shopkeeper knock 10% off or else. At this point, I suspect that most readers are with me and agree that our example of Krug is indeed role-playing. And of course it is. But do you see what I did? Our example didn't just involve Krug talking to the shopkeeper. He was also using intimidating gestures, getting closer, clenching his fist, flexing his arm, to aid in the attempt to coerce the shopkeeper. You see, Krug was engaged in action, not just conversation. And that begins to get us much closer to understanding the true nature of roleplay. Another example will probably help, and let's use Krug again. Not because I'm a lazy writer, but because I like dwarves and Scottish accents. This time, Krug is in a deep, dark, dank dungeon. Ooh. He kicks open a door and stumbles upon a group of 4 kobolds. And apparently, Krug also stumbles across Bagger. Hi, Bagger. Welcome. You came in when things were getting kind of spicy here. We have a Scottish accented dwarf who's kicking in the door of a dungeon. And I'm eager to see what's going to happen because of that. He stumbles across a group of 4 kobolds. The creatures are terrified by this axe-wielding monstrosity and promptly offer a pot of shinies to be spared squishing. Now, Krug's companions, a wussy elf, tender-hearted cleric, and do-gooder paladin, are inclined to accept the offer and move on. However, Krug's village was attacked by a dragon and its kobold cronies when he was younger, and the sour old dwarf has borne a thirst for vengeance ever since. Therefore, bribes and negotiation simply aren't on the table for Krug. He raises his axe, screams a battle cry, and charges. And that is just as much role playing as speaking with a shopkeeper in a Scottish accent. Not a word was spoken, and yet there were heaps upon heaps of role playing going on in that scenario. Let them taste dwarf steel, says Bagger. Seems really easily. Well, it was probably because you have those four little weakling kobolds who are willing to, give something at least, and so maybe that darn do-gooder paladin accepted the bribe, so that violence didn't have to be the answer or the solution. Though, of course, there is always the adage of lawful good does not mean lawful nice. On the three pillars. Perhaps you've heard about the three pillars of role-playing games. They're commonly brought up in the context of game design, as incorporating and balancing said three pillars improves the enjoyability of a game for both players and game master. However, it also suits our purpose to pull them into the context of role-playing, because the three pillars help us better understand what role-playing is to create. Oh. Is that it? Yep, that's not a... I thought I might have had a spot on my monitor here. There's an extra period here between is and to. Anyway, let's continue. The three pillars. Combat. We know what this is. Axe to face, fireballs in crowded areas, a well-timed stab in the back. For most RPG players, combat is part and parcel, as ubiquitous as dwarves and Scottish accents. Exploration. This pillar is often misunderstood as simply being overland travel, going from point A to point B, where the former is often a city and latter the location of the deep, dark, dank dungeon. However, exploration is also poking around said dungeon, inspecting the doors for traps, checking the chest for a false bottom, solving the puzzle that blocks the way forward, and the like. And social interaction. And this here is our baby. When most people say role-playing, what they are actually referring to is the social interaction pillar of gameplay. Social interaction involves the talky-talky bits, conversations with shopkeepers, negotiations with acid-spitting dragons, and the like. I think one of the biggest, I guess you could say, one of the biggest complaints about the Dungeon Master's Guide is that it brings up the three pillars, but there's not... it's referenced, and then there's content that you could put into those pillars, but the pillars themselves aren't exactly fleshed out further than the concept, right? That was introduced. And interestingly enough, with Kobold Press, and also not sponsored. At the time of broadcasting here and recording for YouTube, for in the future, there is the guide. What was the full name of it? Tales of the Valiant. Like, I was gonna say Game Mastery Guide, but that's Pathfinder. Anyway, I think it might just be the Game Master's Guide. And that seems to touch upon those pillars more directly and more often. The Tales of the Valiant is something that I've been considering backing. I'm not quite sure yet, especially because, well, there's a lot of other things competing for the cash right now. But the 3 pillars are very important. And I think you can see that it's not just important for fantasy role-playing, because you can get these 3 in Vampire the Masquerade. Why not? And many other systems. So what's my point? Every single one of the pillars is role-playing. Woo! When Krug charges the kobolds and lays axe to face, you are role-playing Krug. When Krug kicks down the door and smashes the chest to bits in case there is a false bottom, there wasn't, but breaking things makes Krug happy, so it's okay. You are role-playing Krug. When Krug threatens to wring the shopkeeper's neck if he doesn't give them a discount, you might be a redneck. No, it's just it's a Jeff Foxworthy reference for those who may not be familiar. You are role-playing Krug. Every single aspect of an RPG can be classified as one of the 3 pillars. And whenever you as a player or game master engage in any of them, you are role-playing. The act of role-playing permeates every nook and corner of an RPG. You simply cannot escape it. And it shouldn't surprise us they are, after all, called role-playing games. If in-character conversations were the only aspect that was actually role-playing, we wouldn't call them role-playing games. Instead, they'd be called social interaction games, or I'd like to hope, talky-talky games. But they aren't. Thus, role-playing encompasses the totality of the game, all 3 pillars. Now, where do we go from here? If my powers of persuasion haven't failed me, and if they have, I'll send Krug to negotiate on my behalf. You will perhaps agree that although talking in character is role-playing, it is only but a part of role-playing. It is thus that I call upon you to join me with thousands of other players and game masters who are taking up our pitchforks, lighting our torches, and converging upon musty basements, game shops. Hey, Luke, thank you for the shout out to hashtag FLGS. Game shops and anywhere else players and their GMs gather in order to convince them by diplomacy, intimidation, or force of arms to immediately cease this erroneous use of the term role-playing. All right, that was a long sentence, and it was written in jest, mostly. Instead, my call to action is a bit simpler, less likely to land you in legal trouble, and something that perhaps comes a bit more naturally to us gamers. The next time you're in an RPG and you witness the sacrilege of using role-playing to refer to social interaction, I urge you to speak up. Refuse to sit silently, as the name of role-playing is profane. Rather, respond as many of us are wont to respond in such disputes, with the renowned and much acclaimed, actually. Yes. The actually. Well, you have the author's permission to use that, at least in this instance. At the end of the day, you're reading a book on role playing, a kobold guide. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a short paragraph here. It even has that guy in it. Of course, if you're not keen on being that guy, italicized, as being a that guy is a thing, you might also gift the offending person with a copy of this book, with this essay bookmarked and with key passages highlighted, naturally. At the end of the day, you're reading a book on role-playing, a kobold guide to role-playing, and what better way to put into practice what you're learning than to exercise the qualities we all love most about kobolds. Their clever, tricksy nature, their propensity to spread chouse, and their ability to steal away what we love most, such as the time-honored tradition of using the word role-playing inaccurately. Thantos, you're not that guy? Oh, I mentioned that guy, and all of a sudden, do we have some guilty consciences, Obsidian, Miller, and, well, maybe an extra guilty conscience with Thantos automatically disavowing that you're that guy. Mm-hmm. All right, well. Next up, we have preparation and performance. How to be a bard at the table, even if you're playing something else. This is by Chris Kluwe. I think it's Kluwe. If any of you know this person, please tell me more about Chris. The name is not familiar to me. All the same, even if he was, for better or worse, we are separating art from artist, and we're going to look at this piece on its own. We're going to look at preparation and performance. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. What is the show, you ask? Why, it's the show you want to put on at your next gaming session to wow your friends with clever quips and thrilling acts of friendship, and maybe some light betrayal as you continue your adventures in whatever world you're currently exploring. It's the show you, as a player, want to create as your character, and central to that show is the ancient art of role-playing. Or, as some might call it, acting. Or even being a dramatic attention hog. Can't you just be quiet for half a minute, Chris? However, sometimes that stage can be a bit daunting. So I'm going to try and offer you some tips and tricks to help make the most of your role-playing endeavors. Yeah, some light betrayal? Is that like only mostly dead? One of the best things about role-playing games is that they offer players and GMs the opportunity to roleplay as someone completely different from who they truly or who they actually are. A spotlit star on a grand stage of magic and mystery. DuckTales, a woohoo. From a theoretical standpoint, the idea of role-playing your character often feels full of excitement and potential. Where was I there? Your excitement and potential. All right. chance to escape from the boring mundanity of normal life, but it can quickly devolve into a maze of conflicting emotions. Am I being consistent in my motivations? Does this voice make me sound silly? How would my character actually respond in this situation? Those are good prompts, and something it sounds like he's setting us up to confront. I have found in this that, yes, if your character sounds silly, then your efforts will be noticed by the others at the table out of game. And if you have friends or family that are laughing alongside you or going, oh, you know what? I never thought to talk with an accent or a lisp or something with my character. And after hearing that, I feel very, very compelled. Where was he? Motivations. Oh yeah, does his voice make me sound silly? Which, I get the social awareness of that. It is something. I mean, I even still ask myself that. In my local friend group, but I take it as a question that if answered yes, then my character is memorable, even if it's just a little, a little one-shot NPC that they'll never meet again. At least there was still something cool, right? Suddenly, the excitement of role-playing is gone, weighed down by the worry that the role isn't right, or that you might get caught having to respond to something with no clear answer as to how you should behave. You fear that you might be embarrassing, or that you're disrupting the narrative flow. And now, instead of a joyous, adventure-filled get-together with friends, it's an awkward dice-rolling session around a table with the occasional muttered cough as someone reaches for the snacks. Fortunately, there is a way to ensure your role-playing comes off smoothly more often than not, and it involves two key concepts. We have preparation and performance. In my career as a professional athlete, record scratch, yes, I am going to tie sports and RPGs together. The key indicator for how well I played I'm forgetting to do the mouse trick here. Is how prepared I was before the game. Now, for me, preparation involved mastering lots of silly little technical details, such as, is my drop happening at the right time? Are my steps along the hold on a second. Where am I? Yeah. Is my drop happening? Are my steps the proper length? And am I keeping my hips square and my body weight forward during my follow through? But the core concept is the same in football as it is in role playing a character in an RPG. In order to do something well, you have to spend time beforehand making sure all those silly little technical details are sound, so you don't have to think about them when it comes time to perform. From a role-playing perspective, this means your character's backstory is important, and you being able to envision that backstory as your own background is even more important, because that's what will allow you to react fluidly and naturally to situations as they develop. If you want to roleplay memorably before you even set foot in your gaming session, You have to spend time creating that backstory, memorizing it, and then having conversations with yourself on what that actually means in how you see the world. As an example, let's say I want to play Lark, a thief from a large city. The first silly little technical detail I need to master is, why am I a thief? Do I steal because it's the only way I can feed myself? Um, as an act of social rebellion? Because I'm addicted to the rush? Understanding why your character wants to do something is the first step in presenting yourself to others as that character, and your class or archetype or profession, etc. in an RPG goes a long way toward defining what your character finds important. Okay. Picking a class isn't just about the powers and abilities it offers, though those are indeed very cool and a big part of it. It's also about what that says about your character. Oh, I think that was my computer and not yours, as a person. Light betrayal, says Fluffy Sheep. It means you promised to turn the lights off before bed, but you didn't. Ah. Um. I do agree and resonate with the picking of the class statement. In our workshop, the first thing that we really explore and delve into is the person's backstory. And not just for the mechanical benefits, because ultimately those are semi-randomized anyway. But the who of your character, not just the what is your character. Who is your character? The second silly little technical detail I then need to know is, where am I from? Was Lark born in poverty? The child of a well-off and overprotective merchant? The last scion of a disgraced noble family? This is the environment that defines your character's social interactions growing up, and how they interact with various groups and socioeconomic castes. Lark the orphan urchin pickpocket is going to speak much differently to a city guard than Lark of House Darkwater, dashing corsair of the shadows. Being able to envision how your character would converse with people will help you actually converse with those people when it happens in the same game. Which seems obvious on the surface, but so many necessary skills aren't obvious until you really think about them. The third thing to master is, where am I going? What are my overarching goals as a person? My drives and motivations? Is it to make sure I never go hungry again, along with those I grew up with? To upend the corrupt economic system I find myself trapped in? To regain the status and glory of my ancestors, and then surpass them? Knowing where your character wants to go allows you to knowing where your character wants to go allows you to figure out your natural response to situations that arise during the adventure, because it either helps advance your goals in some way or it doesn't, and then you can react accordingly. Again, obvious, but if you don't take the time to think about it beforehand, you won't know the answer. especially in D&D. This is why the background is so important. Yes, it can give you goodies and ribbons for your character. Having some very basic touchstones of a person's personality um, allows you to enact the confidence you have in yourself. You know, many people when they approach this hobby, it's not for me, or I like watching movies, but I don't think I'd be good at running a story. And if only a little bit at a time, through that process of I was thinking on that. Um, because I also don't want to come into this with anything that's convoluted or just a bunch of extra. Well, I'm talking to hear myself talk. Um, what Luke is putting out here is a very important aspect, and probably one of the initial barriers, and even well into running games as a hobby, as a profession, even. You can get hung up on this, but it's so much easier if you have at least these couple notes to understand the that character's direction. What does he want to try and do, even if it's for a bad reason? I'm going to get vengeance on those who killed my family. Well, what happens when they're all dead? And these three things are the fundamentals of your preparation, and mastering them will give you the foundation you need to actually perform when the game session begins. Now let's talk about the actual performance. Performing well in front of people, whether it be an entire stadium filled with tens of thousands or your group of friends around a table, is all about not having to think. You need to be entirely present in the moment, not thinking about anything else, so you can. And by the way, that's. Is it my turn? Okay. I guess I missed. Come back to me. Uh huh. Yep. Oh, the King's Jewels? Yep. Well, he's a jerk. Oh, wait. The King's been dead for 10 years? Oh, I'm sure there's a king somewhere else that's a jerk. You're like, come on, dude. Come on. You need to be entirely present in the moment, not thinking about anything else, so you can react with speed and focus to whatever comes up. This is why preparation is so important, because without preparation, when it comes time to perform, your focus will be on thinking about what the correct response should be rather than simply doing that response. In addition, being entirely present in the moment also means you're not worried about what you look like, how you sound, or whether or not those tight pants make your butt look big as other men rush over to try and give you violent hugs. What can I say? Football is a silly sport. Being entirely present means you are committed to what you're doing right there and then. That it's only, yeah, that it's the only thing that matters to you in that particular instant, and that all of your focus is on executing that one particular task. Welcome back, Persilis. See, a good performance isn't a singular event that magically happens, whether it be football, D&D, or anything else. It's something that you've practiced again and again. I skip ahead? Where am I here? Something you've practiced, yeah, again and again through your preparation and outcome that you've worked at and envisioned to achieve your desired results. Some people may initially be more naturally gifted in specific areas, whether it be athletic or oratory, but they'll never be as successful as those who've put in the preparation. All it takes is time and effort. Finally, I want to finish up with the following advice, which applies to both football, RPGs, and pretty much everything else in life. Everyone makes mistakes, and don't forget to have fun. No fun allowed here. Role playing is serious business. If you aren't producing Hollywood style makeup effects and accents and costumes, are you even role playing? Oh, come on. Get a better group of friends. Obviously that's sarcasm. I was one of the best in the world at what I did, kicking a football high in the air, which is a proficiency so specialized you won't even find it in the addendums to the player's handbook. And despite all my preparation and practice, even I made mistakes from time to time, generally in front of a live audience of millions of people. If you forget some crucial bit of backstory or get tongue-tied during what's supposed to be a dramatic moment, try your best to let it go. Because if you keep worrying on something that's in the past, you're no longer present in the moment. And it's much more likely you're going to make another mistake. Every successful person I've played with has made mistakes. They've also had the capacity to learn from those mistakes and not just let them linger. Yet, you're never going to get to re-roll those dice, so just accept the result and move on. For Silas is lurking while working again. Fluffy Sheep says in front of a live audience is the best place to make mistakes. That way you can get experience by dodging rotten fruit. Well, heck, even online. And I, for the times that I made mistakes in our Chroma company, and even during last year's, it's so weird, even though we're in February already, to call last year. Making mistakes in front of people on Twitch as well. It helps remind you to do the best you can when you can, and if you fail, learn from it and keep going. Because it might be embarrassing to do that. And obviously, those are the moments in Chroma Company that often shine foremost and brightest. But that's because I've also used them as learning lessons, as ways to improve myself, that you all can watch and listen to and hear. And I don't need to try and just talk about it. I can do it because of those memories, because of doing it to people who, yeah, hey, we're all friends and it's a beer and pretzels night, but there is still a kind of connectivity. As for having fun, that one's pretty self-explanatory. Don't get so caught up in trying to make your performance perfect that you lose sight of the goal of RPGs. Having fun with your friends. At the end of the day, role-playing your character should be something you find enjoyment in. And if everything else the day role-playing, having fun with your friends, at the end of the day, your role-playing character should be something you find enjoyment in. And if everything I've just gone over seems like too much work, then simply don't do it. The tips I've laid out here regarding preparation and performance may not be for everyone, and that's okay. After all, there's no correct way to have fun unless you're being controlled by mind flayers, in which case there very definitely is a correct way to have fun. And it involves them slurping out your brain to make a smoothie. Good luck on those wisdom saves, and may your session be filled with natural 20s. Well, thank you, Luke. So it sounds like Luke Cluey played football. He said that he made mistakes in front of millions of people. Hi, GMV. If any of you out there know sports ball, is Chris Cluey a sports ballist? A sports baller? All right, what I'm going to do, I need to get up and walk around a little bit. I'm going to take a short break. And when we come back, let's review the next two essays here. All the campaign worlds a stage, role-playing as world building, and take your character on a transformative journey, how to roleplay and facilitate character arcs. Although I think there's a lot here in that we have... Maybe I'll go through and... Oh, actually, it looks like there's a author of sci-fi novel Otaku in the short story and essay collection Beautifully Unique Sparkle Ponies, and is the lead designer and creator of the tabletop card game Twilight of the Gods. Born and raised by a wild pack of chinchillas in Southern California, he also played 8 years in the NFL for the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, okay. Setting numerous team records, once wrestled a bear for a pot of gold, and has been known to lie occasionally in author biography. And apparently he's on Blue Sky. All right. Well, there you go. Chris Cluey, the author, the contributor that we just read his little essay in. He's a sports ball pundit, says Fluffy Sheep. He was a great punter for us, says GMV. All right. Well, I will. I'll be back shortly. I'm gonna go walk around a bit. Maybe we can read one more part, and then I don't want to read every single one of these. I mean, after all, you should want to look into these yourself, read through them. Maybe there's some that you agree or disagree with. But we can talk about a couple of these, or at least the concepts to bring them up, and there we go. So I will be right back, everyone. Give me about 5 minutes or so, and we'll get back to it. Be right back.